Now, as often the case when the legislative session is nearing an end, there is a flurry of activity, and this year is no different. And that, of course, gives my next guests a lot to talk about. They are the insiders, veterans of the political scene, who join us each week to weigh in on the week's news at the Capitol and also on the campaign trail. Joining us this week is Bob Bellafiore, former press secretary to former Governor George Pataki, and now a senior partner at Eric Mower & Associates. And across the table from him is Bruce Jory. He is a former senior advisor to two former Democratic governors and is now a consultant with Corning Place Consulting and also an adjunct professor of political science at UAlbany. Thank you, as always, gentlemen, for joining me. Let us start with the budget and the latest extender bill, which includes a $1.60 increase on cigarettes, the taxes, which puts us in the highest echelon for cigarette taxes in the nation. What I find really fascinating about this is that everybody said, we're against taxes, no new taxes, except sin taxes. Those are okay. And also, well, we should say that it's paired with the collection of cigarettes on Indian reservations, which is problematic. And you actually have some experience in this because the Pataki administration did it.
Yeah, well, first of all, sin taxes are always the easiest ones to go to because they're supposedly on, I mean, they're on sins, right? They're on a bad thing. They're on tobacco, they're on alcohol.
But a tax is a tax is a tax.
I'm with you. Hey, listen, sister, I'm with you. I just think it's a cheap excuse to try to raise money, and it gives them cover, right? So the only taxes they can raise in a no new taxes era is ones where they have some cover. Their cover this time is it's going to improve people's health by reducing the amount of people who smoke. And the guy you had on TV last night said on the air it wouldn't make a difference in how much he smoked, which I thought was fascinating.
That was Jeff Klein, the Deputy Senate Majority Leader.
So one, they're not raising taxes; they're helping people's health. You know, hogwash. By partnering it with collection, they're also giving themselves cover that they're trying to make sure that they're putting an end to bootlegging, and that they're going to collect taxes on reservations and somehow force those bad guys, the Indians, you know, them up in the western New York, to pay the taxes they should be paying. Everybody knows, you know, they get water from a stone before they're going to collect the amount of money they think they're going to collect from the Native Americans for tobacco taxation. Sorry.
First off, for those who are smokers, raising the price of the cigarettes by taxes doesn't really deter people from smoking.
Well, but it's an addiction, isn't it?
Right, but there is statistical proof that you will have, it is a deterrent to those from starting smoking.
Right.
But Bob is absolutely right. That tax will not meet its fiscal note.
And it's a regressive tax. This is a Democratic-run legislature passing on one of the most regressive taxes you could find. I think if you look demographically, primarily the people who smoke the most are in lower income brackets. And they're the ones who are going to have to pay now in New York City $10 or $11 a pack. And they're addicted.
Yeah, and they're addicted. But before we get
there... But your
there,
administration raised cigarette taxes.
Everybody's administration.
Everybody's administration.
Fine. As long as we got that out.
Yes, we have it down. But talk a little bit about the collection issue. I mean, we talked a little before the show on this. The last time that this has been tried ad nauseum.
Yes.
Tried in the Cuomo administration, and there were really, I mean, there was a riot. There was an insurrection. And in addition, you're seeing now some sort of dark hints from some of the senators out in the western New York of likely violence. You had an Indian chief say in the New York Times this was an act of war.
Yes. Well, here's the problem. On the legality of it, the collecting of taxes for sales to non-Indians is, the state has a very strong legal position.
Yep.
The problem is that this is also related to the land claim issue where the Indian reservation, or the Indian nations under federal law have a strong claim there. So neither side, because of the duality of this, is able to push their legal position. The Indians on pulling homes away from people who've lived in central New York for a very long time. In the state on this collection issue. So if you look at just one part of it, it's easy to scoff at it, but that's why you need a macro solution to it that has evaded everyone.
Wait, but isn't it also, you're seeing in the editorials this morning, isn't it disingenuous? I mean, the Post called it phantom money. They're now saying, I mean, actually, Jeff Klein said to me last night, we're going to collect between $500 million and $1 billion from the collection of this. I mean, really? How? How are you going to do that?
Here's what the legislature needs right now. They need, for a moment in time, for everything to add up in the budget. For the revenues to
add... For one day, practically. Right?
For like a minute.
Just long enough to pass it.
It reminds me of a reporter friend of mine in the old days who had the veracity of one of their stories he's challenged, and his response was, hey, it was true when I wrote it. and this is going to be a case where the budget was balanced for that minute when the last vote was taken. But then in the end, there's very little chance the numbers will end up. And you said before we got on the air, we've seen this movie before. We saw it last year. We've seen it numerous times in the past where the budget is really in balance for like this moment. Oh, my pen is in balance.
Right, and
then
you know who has
then
to
it goes
pick it
like
up?
that.
Andrew Cuomo, probably, right, according
Yes.
to the polls. And this is an interesting thing because, speaking of polls, there's a Q poll out this morning that says that New Yorkers would like to hear more from him, more specifics, about how he's going to fix the budget mess. He has some specifics, to be fair. He has been talking about the budget. He had put out this beautiful book, The New Agenda for New York, et cetera. But it's smart for him politically or not smart for him politically to stay out of it as much as possible?
If the budget gets done in the next 4 to 8 days, it's smart for him to stay out of it. If it drags on ad infinitum over the whole summer, it gets tougher to do that. It is very tough to just opine on the budget when you're not governor and don't have the institutional clout on it because you can't deliver. So does he take a little hit in the Q poll? Yes, but I don't think it changes his political standing or his political lead. But everybody needs to wrap this budget up. And there's a way to do it, by the way, but let me...
We're going to solve it right here.
Yeah.
Andrew
I want
Cuomo's
you to know.
strategy-
You're going to hear it right here first.
What Bruce is talking about is Andrew Cuomo's strategy in isolation. It's a race against another guy, maybe two other guys. And a lot of it depends. So Andrew's decisions are, do I have to talk about the budget? And if I do, what are the ramifications vis-a-vis these other guys? And if I don't, can they make any hay about it? And right now, there's been no indication that Rick Lazio or Carl Palladino can get any running room on Andrew by talking about the budget. So right now, why should he move? He doesn't have to. And the other guys are structurally, politically, media-wise, not competent enough or not robust enough to make a point about.
And you don't want to pin yourself down to anything that then later you're going to have to be beholden to, because the less specific you get now, the better it is for you. The more room you have later when and if you become governor of New York.
George Pataki got elected in governor in 1994 by saying like 3 specific things. I'm going to cut taxes.
Death penalty, reinstate the death penalty, cut taxes, and I'm not Mario Cuomo.
And, well, everybody knew that already, but I'm ending parole for violent felons. It was 3. It was crime and taxes.
Right.
That was it.
And he held to it for about a year.
He's a very disciplined guy, but he got elected governor talking about being specific about 3 things and vague on everything else.
Solve the crisis right here, though. I want to hear this from you.
The 2 houses come together on the remaining portions of the budget, which is Medicaid and education.
Well,
they come to a 2-house agreement. No, it's not easy. They come to a 2-house agreement. The governor, they negotiate with him and get him to put the revenues they can swallow into the extender for the 28th. That passes the revenue. They pass that. The governor then preserves his right to veto, and then he can veto that back into balance if he chooses to, but you would have an enacted budget at that point. Right. Now, you said something that I disagreed with several months ago, and you were proven right. You said that you thought the governor might elongate and delay this budget because once the budget was passed, he was less relevant. If the governor does not take advantage of the scenario I just laid out, which I think is what the 2 houses of the legislature are leading to.
It seems like it, yeah.
It's the way it was done in '98, and then Pataki vetoed. I mean, it's been done before. If he blows that up, then I would be prepared to say you were right back a couple months ago, and the rest of us were wrong.
We'll have you back to tell us. But he says he's going to stick with this June 28th all or nothing. I'm going to put all the rest of my spending plan, which you guys don't like, which includes, I assume, the soda tax and other revenue generators that people don't like, $1.4 billion worth of education cuts. I'm going to put it all into the budget extenders and do what I've been doing up to this point, which is to say, force you to vote on this or a shutdown. Right. And what will they do?
Well, what if they passed a 2-house agreement on the rest of the budget and presented that to him, and then pinned it back on him and say, you're the one standing in the way of closure?
Which might be why you're hearing so much positive talk from the Democratic conference leader and